Hi everybody, this is Karak with Angry Centaur Gaming. I was asked what I thought was so unique and special about Life is Strange. Some people had probably picked up on the fact of the way I sounded during the review, and there was a little bit of eclectic bits going on in both the review and in my playthrough that were difficult to describe. And what I'm going to do is quickly describe some of the reasons why I think that Life is Strange is a title that people should really be watching. I want to start out with the fact that in the other games that are like this in the past couple years, Telltale games in particular, you're always in a state of knowing. You have The Walking Dead, where you know the general gist of The Walking Dead. You have The Wolf Among Us, I believe, The Wolf in Shadow, whichever one that is. That is the same way. You know those characters if you've read the comics. Basically, they're available to you. Game of Thrones, same way. It's available to you, and there's a state of knowing there, unless you somehow jump into it without knowing a single thing. Now, when it comes to this game, you jump into it in a state of unknowing. You not only because of the way it jumps into it from a nightmare sequence, then you're suddenly in photography class, but also the fact that the character has just moved back to town. So there isn't an actual history for your character in this world that much. There isn't much there, and there's a really cool little bit of mystery right there of just, what she thinks of things. And as you read her journal, you sort of pick up on her own weaknesses and fallibilities when it comes to that, as well as what she sees and feels from others. And the weird thing is, her journal goes back farther than the game does. What I mean by that is many games, if you watch them, the journal doesn't go back any farther than the game. The person's journal doesn't. Now, they might find, tips and tricks laid around, fa la la style, like people just were throwing them around, but for the most part, their own journal won't go farther back than their own genesis, their own starting. Here it does, and you can read about some of the characters, some of the teachers, just some of the world and class. And of course, that was probably done to keep the cost down, to keep the game at a shorter pace, but it actually adds to the mystery of the character Max. And you've seen this in other reviews of the game where people were a little bit disturbed that they didn't feel like it was their Max. And I actually, they didn't feel like they took her over. Well, here's the thing. I don't think you're supposed to. And there's a couple reasons why. Number one, when you get in discussions, you start to realize quite quickly that almost none of the discussions have an overarching, strong theme of fixing anything. Instead, it's more about experiencing, once again, more of the world. It's not about fixing stuff. You do save a person from getting smashed in the head. You do mess up somebody's clothes. You do a little bit. But you really don't change anything from the past that's occurred or change anything heady and big. It's more just experiencing things and discussions and learning a bit more and finding out a bit more. And of course, occasionally shutting a cupboard so that nobody can find out that you opened it. I think that's on purpose. A lot of people I know dinged on this game for that, but I really do feel it's on purpose to add to the mystery of Max. As you play the game, one of the things you realize is that she doesn't exist in the way that many others would, which is if they found the ability to rewind time, they would go and fucking play craps and gamble with it, or they do something crazy. Max, that thought doesn't enter her mind. She goes about the world almost the same. And what's funny is each time you rewind a discussion, there's a growing angst that I felt where I didn't tell anybody of my situation. I would rewind it and discuss something about skateboards, but I didn't say, hey, do you have a moment? Let's discuss this situation I'm dealing with. And it reminded me of times when kids want to tell somebody, they have a secret and they're busting to tell somebody, but they can't. And I think that's why the game grabbed me and shoved me into the atmosphere so well, because I was caught up in that same feeling. I was feeling the exact same way. I wanted to tell somebody, but Max wouldn't tell somebody. There was a gate there that I couldn't get past, and I really do feel that that solidified me. Also, in the past, especially when I grew up, there were a lot of movies and nonfiction about kids becoming the chosen one or finding out they have some type of magic. Go back and look at 1980s and 1990s. There's always a movie about a kid finding some magic fairyland or something crazy like that. And this game sort of taps into that same feeling. It's got a bully feeling, as in you're going back to school, but it also has that fantasy feeling, and they nailed it really well. And I think that's also why it attracted me, because I am a fan of those movies and that literature, and I'm really a fan of things like, Goonies and that adventure. Here, though, you have a slightly different version of the Goonies. It's a little bit more dreary, a little bit more moody, a little bit between that time of youthful ignorance and post-puberty, despair, I guess you could describe it. So Max goes around and you do discover some things, you do uncover some secrets about what's going on, I guess, but it's very, very lean. And I think that's why I liked the game so much. It doesn't go out of its way to sell itself to you. It goes out of its way to make sure that you feel that this soft, pastel-colored world is somewhat real, and continued both before and will continue after you leave. And that's something I want to explain. I think, again, one of the reasons why I was so into this game is the sense of timeliness. There is the mystery of her just returning to this school after being gone in this area, and so there's not a lot of past history, but the world itself feels like when she was gone, things occurred. And that is actually difficult in many games. Many games will not try that. And I'm not talking about just her friend who's moved on. I'm talking about little things like the way the school is set up. Like when you walk out into the school grounds for the first time, some people are sitting down laying in the grass. Other people are looking at art. Other people are far off in the, looking like they're smoking at the backstop at a baseball field. And some people are skateboarding. And then there's others doing other things. And everything feels like something has occurred before you walked out that door. And that is a really good, I guess, indicator of making you also feel, or a really good motivator of making you also feel that things will occur when you leave. It's really important to me in games that there's a sense of past and future, because if there's not, who gives a fuck about the present? And I think a lot of developers can't do that right. Here they did. Anyway, those are some of the reasons why I think this game is really absolutely spectacular. It captures that feeling of angst of being a kid with a secret, but it goes out of its way to sort of lodge you into the fact that maybe things aren't exactly what you think. And my own opinion is that there's a very good chance at the end of this game we are going to learn one of life's lessons, which is that you can't reverse time regardless of the tragedy. There's something about it that feels that way to me already. There's something about it. There's a slight melancholy feel to it, even in the happiest times. When Max is dancing with her best friend inside of their bedroom, you realize something prior to that happened that was very bad, and something is probably going to happen right after that that is very bad. And that's why it feels a little bit like Dreamfall to me, where no matter what, there is that melancholy overall feel that sort of tinges every bit of happiness. And it's not depressing as much as it's, let's say, a sunset at the end of a really nice sunny day. There's a very unique feeling to that. So anyway, those are my thoughts. That's what I'm getting from the game. I absolutely adore it. I was totally surprised by it. I can't believe that I didn't know much about it. I'm so glad that I jumped into it. If you liked the video, hit like. If you disliked it, hit dislike. Sorry there's no video here, but the camera is in another room, and I decided to throw this up and just start spouting off the information that was in my head. Peace out.